Chris Kelsey here with
Matt Howell.
And on this episode of The First Run, Matt and I are going to discuss Taika Waititi's latest film, Jojo Rabbit, because I can't think of anything else I'd rather see right now than a satire about good old Uncle Adolf. We're also going to see the sequel to The Shining, Dr. Sleep. It's been 40 years, is that right? And we are now going to watch Mike Flanagan, who has delivered some really great horror over the last few years. Well, we're going to see his follow-up to that absolutely legendary and classic horror film. We're going to continue our Creepshow discussion with episode 5. Only one more to go, Matt. And then, in honor of The Shining, we're going to discuss, or I should say, Dr. Sleep. Excuse me. Our 5 favorite nightmare scenes. Let's start everything off, though, with a clip from I Can't Decide. Let's go with this one.
Poor Jojo. What's wrong, little man?
Hi, Adolf.
Want to tell me about that rabbit incident? What was all that about?
They wanted me to kill it. I'm sorry. I couldn't.
Don't worry about it. I couldn't care less.
But now they call me a scared rabbit.
Let them say whatever they want. People used to say a lot of nasty things about me. Oh, this guy's a lunatic. Oh, look at that psycho. He's gonna get us all killed. I'll let you in on a little secret. The rabbit is no coward. The humble little bunny faces a dangerous world every day, hunting carrots for his family, for his country. My empire will be full of all animals. Lions, giraffes, zebras, rhinoceroses, octopuses, rhinoctopuses, even the mighty rabbit. Cigarette?
Oh, no thanks. I don't smoke.
So, Matt, it is a double feature week here at The First. We're discussing 2 films that are currently playing in the theaters right now for your enjoyment. So, Jojo Rabbit, Matt. First off, I want you to tell everybody what is this movie about, and then answer this simple question. Is Jojo Rabbit a sweet, almost coming-of-age story that's also very heartfelt and a blisteringly funny satire? Or is this, wow, Waititi, read the room, man. What a horrible misfire. You're making Hitler as a punchline? Come on, brah. I'm going to bring back brah again for a second. No, I won't say it. So, what is Jojo Rabbit all about?
It's the waning days of World War II. The Nazi war machine is faltering, and we're focused on a young boy named Johann, or Jojo, who is a member of the Hitler Youth. He is a super fan and true believer of the Nazi Party, who goes so far as to have Hitler as his imaginary friend. Well, it turns out that Jojo may not be cut out for Nazi Party life. And he comes to find out that his mother is harboring a young Jewish girl in their attic.
No, I said I wasn't going to do it. So answer my question, damn it. Is Jojo Rabbit a touching, heartwarming, sad, and blisteringly funny satire?
Mm-hmm.
Or no?
I think it is heartfelt, and it's touching, and it's funny. I don't know if I would say it's blisteringly funny, because some of the subject matter is a little too weighty, I think, to necessarily make it as funny as it can be, but it is still very funny. I think it's definitely the former versus the latter.
That is the correct answer. I agree. I found it to be absolutely hilarious at times, but when appropriate.
Right.
I think that's the thing. I think Waititi does a fairly good job here of balancing everything he's trying to juggle with this thing. It's I read... It's a high wire act that he's running here, and I think he's mostly successful in pulling it off.
Yeah.
And when it does work, I think it's extraordinary. But there's just a couple things, particularly for me, maybe the ending didn't have the emotional impact that I think he was going for. It's still nice, but it's not. It didn't hit me like I think his intention was.
Yeah.
I thought that Roman Griffin Davis, who plays Jojo, he does a lot of the heavy lifting on this thing. And he nails, I think, the humor, the whimsy, and the pathos, and just the horribleness of the things he has to deal with. Another great performance is Scarlett Johansson as his mother. She's taken a few punches in the media this past year, but she is really fantastic in this. This film, too, I thought, Matt, had some real emotional gut punches that floored me. There's one particular scene, and I think that Waititi does a good job of masking this, because I did not see it coming. I probably should have, but I did not. And when it hit, I was like, I think my hand actually went up to my mouth, like, I was like that, like, holy crap.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I mean, that's the emotional climax of the film, and it's kind of hard to come back after that to try and land something, emotionally satisfying at the end. And I even think Sam Rockwell, he's very funny in this.
Yes.
And the kind of last you see of him as well is kind of an interesting take. So I think it's just all the little touches, like his little friend who just somehow seems to be like all in it, but at the same time, not really. He's just kind of going along with it and just lucking his way through everything. I think I went into this expecting something a lot more, I don't know what the word is, so I'm going to say zany, which I don't think is correctly necessarily what I'm thinking of, but I was expecting something way more ridiculous than what I got. And that's not a bad thing. It's just not as funny as I was expecting it to. I think it's got a lot more pathos and message and things to say. That definitely has some very funny parts in it, but it's not like it's a laugh-a-minute kind of ridiculous Monty Python skit or something like that.
No, this is no What We Do in the Shadows, right? And even less so than Hunt of the Wilderpeople, which is one of my favorite films from the year it came out. Was it 16? I think that's great. I didn't put that connection together, but you're entirely right. The emotional closure, the impact of the film happens before really the end. That zeitgeist of that does hit earlier. So maybe that's why I felt the ending didn't have the same impact to me. That's why I felt a little wanting for the end. But I think you're right too. That I think he's also making a statement that's just as relevant today, unfortunately, that it was back then. It made me wonder too, though, if there was another director who could have handled this. I don't know. I can't really think of anybody off the top of my head who has that kind of wit and charm about him that's able to deliver something that's as contemplative and as dead serious as this is, but also made me laugh out loud probably at least a dozen to 2 dozen times while watching it.
Yeah, I'm hard pressed to think of anybody. That's for sure.
No, I really think it's Waititi's shorthand that is able to, and his wit, that really makes this thing work. It is potentially much more successful than maybe it could be with anybody else. And yeah. I don't know. I really, really enjoyed this. I do definitely want to watch this again. This will be a repeat view for me. This may sound odd too, but we didn't get as much Adolf as I was hoping either.
Right.
He's a little more prevalent in the first quarter of the film, I think.
Yeah.
And then as Jojo kind of grows up, I think, and encounters different scenarios, obviously he starts to leave, you leave your imaginary friend behind. So, but all the hardcore, I think mostly the hardcore laughs were basically when he was around. So,
yeah.
And even Scarlett Johansson had a few really funny scenes. There's that one really sweet, touching scene where they're by the river, her and Jojo.
Yeah.
That I really enjoyed. I was going to pull that for a clip too, but in the end, I decided to try and avoid the profanity if I possibly could. But there was one really good, funny line in that. So, as I said, I really enjoyed Jojo Rabbit. I think I'm going to give it an A-. I think the only thing for me that is a weakness was, again, that ending, because the emotional pop, I guess, had already hit prior to it.
I really enjoyed it as well. It's not as funny as I was expecting, but it's got a lot to say, and like you said, it's got echoes of things that are still relevant today. And I think it's a solid film all around. Although I think you're completely wrong. This is actually like an A- film.
Oh,
yeah,
good.
A-.
Yeah, no, that's entirely different than what I had said. So that's good.
Did you get an A-? So I don't really listen to you when you talk. I just kind of zone out. Wow.
Okay. Jojo Rabbit. A- is around across the board. There are some people too that absolutely hated this thing, which I think is odd. They say it's like tone deaf, or you cannot make Hitler funny. It's inappropriate to do. But then I'm like, well, the producers, right? I mean,
right.
I think satire works really well, but you really have to nail it. You can't half-ass it, and you can't not get it right. So, I think he does a great job with this. He pulls this off, and it's really incredibly well done. So if you've had a chance to see Jojo Rabbit, shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Matt, I know what you're asking yourself. You're saying, Chris, what's coming up on Blu-ray and DVD this upcoming Tuesday, November 19th? Well, I bought this in a limited edition steelbook. It was a 4K transfer, Matt, for a brand new Blu-ray of an absolutely classic seminal horror film. Because I'm thinking, well, I know they did a 4K scan, but it's never going to come out in 4K. It's too much of a niche audience. It's never going to happen. Well, guess what? Joke's on me, brother.
You really messed things up.
What are you talking about?
Because maybe Pat was talking to someone just inside the building that night. And we know that someone wasn't one of the teachers. Come on. Now you put them on the hunt for somebody.
What difference does that make to you?
Big difference. Because I was Pat's friend. She was telling me something when you suddenly showed up. She got scared and she ran away. She was in hysterics almost. And then she was killed.
That's right. Synapse is releasing Suspiria on 4K. Those bastards. I definitely would have waited for an actual 4K release if I knew it was coming. But I guess the Blu-ray sold so well that they decided to move forward and release their first 4K disc. Includes a 4K restoration of the original uncut, uncensored Italian 35mm camera negative. The original 4.0 1977 English language sound mix, not heard, Matt, since the theatrical release in 77. An all-new Dolby Atmos remix and high dynamic range presentation. 2 audio commentaries, couple featurettes as well. There's a bunch of stuff on this. And I'm a little upset. Also coming out is Dora and the Lost City of Gold. Includes some bloopers, deleted extended scenes, and making of featurettes. One of the weirdest reviews out there you can Google is for Dora and the Lost City of Gold. I can't remember now who wrote it, but there's a whole thing about that she's not sexy enough or something. There's some really weird review focusing on her sexuality out there. So I think she's supposed to be, 13 in this? A lot of weird people out there. The Bruce Springsteen focused film Blinded by the Light is being released as well. Includes some deleted scenes and more. This is the one set in 1987 during the austerity days of Margaret Thatcher's Britain. And a young, I think he's Pakistani man, discovers Bruce Springsteen and really connects with his voice and his words. The documentary Memory, The Origins of Alien is being released. It's the untold origin story behind Ridley Scott's Alien, which is rooted in Greek and Egyptian mythologies, underground comics, the art of Francis Bacon, and the dark visions of Dan O'Bannon and H.R. Giger. It's Giger, right? I used to say Geiger when I was growing up, but I believe it is Giger.
Oh, is it? I've always said Geiger as well.
Well, you're wrong.
Okay.
What else is coming up new to Blu-ray? Criterion is releasing Cold War, a best foreign language film from a few years ago. I think it's on actually Amazon Prime right now. It is fantastic. There's a brand new 4K digital master. It's a passionate love story, Matt, about 2 people on different backgrounds and temperaments who are fatefully mismatched, set against the background of the Cold War in the 1950s in Poland, Berlin, Yugoslavia, and gay Paris. Includes a new conversation between the director and filmmaker, Alejandro Inarritu, and more. It is streaming on Amazon Prime, I believe. At least check it out there. It is a fantastic film. It's shot in black and white, and it is gorgeous. Criterion is also releasing Betty Blue, the story of 2 French lovers, Zorg and Betty, who fall into a deeply erotic and all-encompassing relationship.
Oh,
this
yeah.
one's for the ladies. A high-definition restoration approved by director Jean-Jacques Benny. Blue Notes and Bungalows, a 60-minute documentary from 2013, a short video on the making of, and more. Shout Factory, Matt, is releasing the Abbott and Costello Universal Collection. This is one of those things that I would love to get that I will likely never watch if I bought it. But it is all the Universal Abbott and Costello movies, including the monster ones. When they meet Dracula and Frankenstein and all that. This thing has 15 discs, Matt. It includes audio commentaries, still galleries, theatrical notes, and more. But it's all 28 films. That is just... I loved Abbott and Costello growing up. That was my ritual. Saturday morning, I'd watch Abbott and Costello, watch the Three Stooges, and then it was Channel 56 when they would run the Godzilla movies.
Wow. That's quite a Saturday morning ritual right there.
Yeah. And then I think and then what, He-Man came out. Was it He-Man on that? Or was it Superpowers? DC Superpowers? Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends? I used to watch those too. He-Man was after school. That's right. I can't... This whole... I don't know. You know what I'm talking about with He-Man.
No, yeah. I mean, He-Man is after school. I mean, I'm trying to think of the Saturday morning cartoons that were then.
Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends was Saturday morning. I think
What was the Super Friends? Was the Super Friends on Saturday morning too?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, like Transformers and stuff. That was all after school.
Yeah.
I remember the after school ones better than the. I remember like Scooby Doo was on a lot. I remember that. So there's a lot of the Hanna-Barbera cartoons.
Yeah, yeah. What was the one with the? I remember Thundar the Barbarian. Did you watch Thundar?
Yeah. Yeah, I did. Yeah, of course.
I like Thundar. There was another one too. I'm blanking on right now. Oh well, good times.
Mm-hmm.
I am old. Shout Factory is releasing American Me. A Mexican-American mafia kingpin is released from prison, falls in love for the first time, and grows introspective about his gangster lifestyle, starring Edward James Olmos. Eddie Murphy's movie, Holy Man, is being released as well. And then your straight-to-DVD pick of the week, Matt. Delivery Boys. Brand new 2K master. It's delightful. It's delicious. It's Delivery Boys. Looking for a deliciously entertaining movie stuffed with crazy comedy, breathtaking breakdancing, and a super soundtrack? Call Max, Conrad, and Joey from Ben's Pizzeria. They deliver. When not on the job, the boys moonlight as the Delivery Boys, a sharp breakdance crew who have entered in the $10,000 New York All-City Breakdance Championship. You meet some strange folks delivering pizzas at night, Matt, but the night of the competition is one for the books. Max delivers to a mansion where the voice of a foxy lady lured him up to a boudoir. Conrad delivers to a weird hospital where an ex-Nazi doctor invites him to become an unwilling subject for hormone research. It's nothing but Nazis this week, wall to wall. And Joey winds up at a bizarre art gallery where an insane sculptor delights in using real-life people as his subjects to add a natural touch to his art. Will they ever make it to the contest in time? The spectacularly exciting climax and finale aren't they the same thing? Is the tastiest part of it all, and you'll wish you had more. That is the Delivery Boys. What should we be streaming this week?
Well, it's as of this recording, it's been a whole one day since Disney Plus, came and cursed all of our lives with yet another streaming service. But I have to say, I'm a sucker. I went ahead and signed up, and I got the bundle too, so I could have access to Hulu and ESPN Plus.
What does that run you?
$13 or $12.99.
Now, did you sign up for a multi-year program to get a discount? What I understand, if you sign up for the 3-year program, it's basically like $4 a month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they were only
Disney Plus.
Yeah, they were only doing that for the actual just Disney Plus. If you wanted the bundle, you couldn't pre-order, and there's no special. It's basically just $13 a month, which, for all that you get is worth it to me anyway, I think. And you know what? I am 40 years old now, Chris, so I figured I can afford $13 a month,
I guess so. It's Hulu with ads, though, right? Which I think is kind of...
It is Hulu with ads, so we'll see how annoying that is. But that remains to be seen because I haven't watched anything on Hulu with ads yet.
Are you going to cancel your cable? Do you still have cable? I don't even know.
We're talking about it, but the problem is that the other people in the house who shall not be named, my wife,
right.
She wants to... she's obsessed with she's very concerned with being able to watch soap operas and stuff. Mm-hmm. So she wants to watch she would want to get like Hulu with live TV, and it's like after you do that, it costs the same as cable,
Got it.
with after the internet and everything else.
Got it. I think they just announced too. I think it released today that the One Life to Live is going on hiatus.
Is it?
Yeah, they
Days of Our Lives.
Is it that one?
Yeah,
they let everybody out of their contracts today. Or something like that?
They did. Yeah,
Days of Our Lives.
Well, she watches the CBS ones like Young and the Restless and stuff like that. So.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Anyway, but I mean, I will say this: this is my last set of streaming services. I get Amazon Prime, which is like included with like the free shipping and stuff, which I would buy anyway, and then Netflix, which I'm tied into. But I'm not getting any more streaming services. This is it. Line in the sand, Chris.
Here's the thing: I have AT&T, right? So I have the unlimited plan. So I have AT&T Now, which used to be DirecTV Now. So we don't have cable. We go with the AT&T Now streaming service.
Sure.
which basically gets everything I want. We get like a 30-hour DVR included, and it was like $20 a month. And they're jacking me up
Sure.
to 30.
Yeah. Outrageous.
But from what I understand, since I have AT&T now, or I'm an AT&T customer, I will get the HBO Plus for free.
Oh, wow. Look at you.
Which is all the Warner Brothers stuff, right? Or the DC
Yeah.
stuff. It's
Yeah.
everything.
Yep.
So I'll be watching Titans finally. I'll be watching Swamp Thing, all that stuff. This is all true. We'll
Yeah,
see.
that's pretty cool. I mean, there are some things like it sucks because I'd like to see the new Star Trek show. I'd like to see some of those DC shows, but I'm just not shelling out for another service. It's just not happening. So
I will not pay CBS All Access. I don't watch any CBS shows. It would just be Star Trek.
yeah, it's really gonna hurt
Twilight
when I
Zone.
can't watch with Picard. I'm very curious to see that. So.
Right. I don't know. Part of my deal is I get HBO for free for life. So
Do
my
you?
understanding, yeah, I don't think they still offer that, but when I signed up, they did. So
Okay.
even at $30, getting HBO free is, that's $15 a month, I think, or something like that. So
Right.
to get the whole expanded thing, I'm pretty excited about that. Good times.
Good times. Well, anyway, before we digress on that 2-minute long diversion, so because Disney Plus is out, the first episode of The Mandalorian is available, which is a Star Wars TV show, kind of a Star Wars Western thing starring a mysterious bounty hunter who dresses in the same armor that Boba Fett does, or same style of armor, and he's called The Mandalorian. I've seen it. It's awesome. And as much as everybody's annoyed, I think we're seeing the way of the future where they're going to start releasing these episodes once a week so they can force you to at least have multiple months worth of subscribers instead of binging it all in one day and then canceling your free service. So that's the smart way to go.
It does kind of make sense. How's Werner
Yeah.
Herzog in that thing?
He is an interesting character. You should. I won't say much because we may talk about it later. I don't want to spoil it for anybody.
I know, and I want to ask if IG-88 is indeed in it, but we'll wait. I loved IG-88 as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite toys I used to play with, of the action figures. Good times. All right, let's keep moving, Matt. Let's spend a few minutes and talk about Creepshow, episode 5. That's Italian.
You see, this paw was smuggled out of Mumbai by a former client, now deceased. Old folklore tells of an Indian fakir who cast a spell on it, giving it the power to grant its host 3 wishes. Now, the fakir wanted to prove that fate ruled people's lives, and that those that interfered did so at their own peril. Move the clenched fist. That means that 3 wishes have already been granted.
You gonna tell me what this little prop here has to do with your late wife?
Almost everything. You see, like you, I didn't believe in the power of the paw. But Marjorie, she couldn't resist. So she made a couple of frivolous wishes. The first was a lost recipe, and the other, I can't recall. But the point was that the wishes came to pass.
A lost recipe.
I know what you're thinking. But it was her 3rd wish that convinced me otherwise.
That sounds scary. So this week's double feature on Creepshow, Matt, is Night of the Paw and Times is Tough in Muskie Holler. Now, you may not know this about me, Matt, but I love monkeys' paws tails.
Really? That is shocking. There's such a hoary trope that's just been so overused.
I know. I don't know what I'm a sucker for them every time. There is a podcast that I listen to called, what's it called? The Horror. Are you familiar with this at all?
No, I'm not.
So you can look up The Horror. And what they do is they curate old radio scary stories from like the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s.
Okay.
And then you just put every week it's a different one from a different series.
Right.
And they have a bunch. There's just a lot of great stuff on there. I love listening to that old timey radio stuff. And I just listened to one like a month ago, which was a monkey's paw one. And I don't know what I've always liked these stories. I like because you wish for something, but it's always a little twist, right? There's always a little needle. I've been watching all the Amicus horror anthology films as well. I was trying to do something for Halloween for that, but obviously just scheduling didn't allow for it. But I've still been enjoying watching them. And one of them was a great little monkey's paw one. So reading about this, I was very excited going into it. Plus, it's anchored by, I think, a fun performance by Bruce Davison. Whenever he shows up, I think he does an interesting job, and he's always entertaining to watch. This one was, I think, one of the better segments we've seen so far this whole season. Now, I don't know if it's because I'm a monkey's paw guy. What did you think about it? I thought it was pretty funny. Not funny, but pretty interesting, pretty scary for the most part. And I thought the twists and there are a couple of scenes of gore really worked well. So, good.
Yeah, this is. I think you're saying that because you're a monkey's paw guy. I mean, the monkey's paw is a really cool story, and it's kind of like this really good myth of being careful what you wish for. But it's been so done to death, and it's just, it doesn't give me anything new. It really doesn't. I was kind of bored watching it because you knew where this was going from the get-go, where this was going, and more than you do for any of the other episodes that we've watched so far.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. But I was enjoying the ride, and I just was waiting to see what the twists were going to be.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it. I gave Night of the Paw a B+. It was probably one of my favorites, but clearly you feel otherwise.
Yeah, I gave it a C.
Gross. C for cool.
So this is it, guys. This is us being worlds apart right now. This is about as far as we get.
Well, it's yeah. Well, there are some classic episodes in the archives, which hopefully you'll be hearing at some point soon. I'll be releasing them all, where you can hear some classic arguments. So why don't you tell everybody at home, what is Times is Tough and Muskie Holler all about?
You are open up on a scene where some folks are they're in prison. They're being marched out to what you assume is an execution. And it kind of slowly explains that these were people who came to power after the rise of a zombie apocalypse, and they are getting their comeuppance for being not so great people.
What did you think about it?
I thought the premise was pretty interesting, even though it was, again, a zombie thing. The way they kind of told it in flashback, and keeping me guessing at least initially as to exactly what was going on. Like, I wasn't sure if they were going to be sent up to do some kind of gladiator battle to the death, or was I going to get a Running Man or something like that? So like I was into it, trying to figure it out in the beginning. Acting was not great. No. Arquette makes a random appearance out of nowhere. So it was okay. I think I enjoyed it more than I enjoyed the Monkey's Paw, just because it wasn't quite as predictable, but it's still not great.
So yeah, I gave it a C+ myself. I enjoy how kind of was a little politically charged. I think the story may be a little undercut by the fact that we're all basically just waiting for the reveal.
Right.
What's really going to happen when they get up there.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like it would be improved by extending the runtime. I believe this is the shortest out of all of them. And it's only like 13 minutes long or 14 minutes long or something like that. And it's I would like to have had the story expanded a bit, maybe more information or more stories about how this group came into town and kind of took over, right? And everything they did, instead of the kind of the quick little flashback action that we got instead. So yeah, that one I was a little more underwhelmed by. Though I will say, good gore effects all around in this episode. This one I thought was particularly well done. I don't know if they've been saving some of the budget for this episode, or maybe the next one too. But this one really paid off in that department, if that's your thing. So what'd you give it for a grade?
You know what? I'm right with you. I gave it a C+. I liked it a little better than the other one, but it's still not necessarily a high point for the show. So I think the next show is the last one. So we'll have to see if they blew their budget on some big spectacular finale.
We will find out. All right, have you seen either of those episodes or any of the episodes of Creepshow or that most recent one? Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Matt, let's go ahead, take a break, come back, and talk about a sequel 40 years in the making that maybe nobody asked for.
You're magic, like me.
I need you to listen to me. The world's a hungry place. A dark place.
Hi there.
I only met 2 or 3 people like us. They died. When I was a kid, I bumped into these things. I don't know about magic. I always called it The Shining.
So we are back, Matt. It's been quite a few years since Stanley Kubrick's just classic film. There's no way around it. All right, It is a horror classic. I vacillate between that, and The Thing as being my favorite horror film of all time. I think I usually go with The Thing, but when I watch The Shining, I am just still in awe every time I watch it. I watched it again in anticipation of seeing Doctor Sleep. And man, that thing still works. I don't know if you did see that I tweeted out too. There's scenes that I didn't notice it before where there's that Native American chanting. It's just very subtly inserted into the kind of this almost ambient texture for the film every now and then, which I hadn't noticed before because I was listening to it this time with headphones. But I'm sure subconsciously I probably saw or heard it before while watching the film.
Right.
So we shoot ahead now, right? What is it, 40 years? And Danny is struggling with his life. He's an alcoholic. He's basically a drifter. And he settles down in a town, or I'm even blanking where the hell he's in at this point.
Yeah, New Hampshire.
He's in New Hampshire, thank you. Yeah. And he gets into AA, he kind of turns his life around, gets a job, becomes an upstanding member of the community, and then he becomes aware of Abra, who is a young woman who also shines and is possibly the most powerful shiner in recorded history, I guess. She has some really fantastic abilities, and there is a pack of magic eaters, whatever they may be, who find all these other people who have some magic in them and basically devour their souls, I guess, in some capacity. It's their...
Yeah, they're like psychic vampires, and they're finding people who have psychic powers and basically draining their life force.
And their leader, Rose the Hat, played by Rebecca Ferguson. Danny Torrance, the elder, is played by Ewan McGregor. And they, Matt, are the anchors of this film. Their performances, I thought, were fantastic in this, and they really helped push this along. But really, I think it's Mike Flanagan. Now, if you're not familiar with Mike Flanagan, he has turned out some of the better horror films of this decade. So the first film I saw him was Oculus, which is a movie about a haunted mirror. Mm-hmm. That works. That thing is really well done. In fact, the mirror is in this movie. I think it's in every one of his films since then. He did Hush, which I believe is on Netflix. Is that streaming?
It is.
Which is quite good. Ouija Origin of Evil, which is the sequel to a horrible film, but is a far superior follow-up. And then Gerald's Game, which is currently on Netflix as well. Yep. That is another great one. And now he's here with the sequel to Kubrick and King's source materials, I guess. And he does, I think, a great job of meshing the two. Now, I haven't read The Shining. You have, correct?
Yeah, I've read. I have read The Shining, so it's pretty well known that Stephen King does not like Kubrick's film. I think he calls it he says it's beautiful and it's incredibly well made, but it's essentially a Cadillac with no engine. It has no heart in it. It's very cold and dissonant. It's nothing like his novel, which is actually a fair criticism insofar as his novel has plot-wise is very different, and it has very different themes and all this kind of stuff. So it's interesting to watch Flanagan kind of merge this book, the sequel of a book that King wrote, which is very different than, based off of a book that's very different than the original movie, and kind of merging this into a film that's basically its own thing, but has become its own legend. So it's kind of interesting to watch him like navigate those two things, and he does actually a really good job.
Yeah, no, I agree. What he's able to pull off here, he also, I know I used this term earlier today because I became so in love with it when I wrote it down, but he's able to kind of recreate the sonic textures that Kubrick does and Wendy Carlos did for the original Shining film. That really helps set the mood. Now, I don't know if I don't think it's as successful as Wendy Carlos was and Kubrick were. Now, of course, Kubrick also, actually, she had done a full score and he jettisoned most of it and brought in some truly terrifying classical music pieces instead. But still, the bones and the structure of her score is still there, and I believe it does bookend the film. And there's more of that here, and it may be expanded upon, but not as successful. I want to go back to, I think, McGregor, again, as portrayal of this broken man who's kind of seeking life, a new life and possible redemption. And the flip side of that is Rebecca Ferguson's kind of predatory, shark-like performance. She's at times scary and alluring. And what I love, too, is that she's not omnipotent, and she knows that, right? Because she has some encounters with Abra where she is terrified herself. And I think she really is quite good in this. I think there's some wonderful nods to Kubrick's original film in this, but it's not chained to it, right? Which I think is good. It lives and breathes on its own. Did you notice, I'm assuming you did, when Danny is talking to John Dalton, Dr. Dalton, the guy played by Bruce Greenwood, in his office?
Yeah.
Did you notice the office?
Yeah, it's basically the same office as
It is.
the one that was being interviewed in. Okay.
Exactly. Oh yeah, I actually pointed to the screen and went like I was all excited about it. So there's a bunch of little nods like that here. It's now Flanagan's film is kind of sprawling. It's like 2.5 hours long, but I never found it to be dull. I really enjoyed being with these characters, and I think that's because of McGregor and Ferguson, really, and Flanagan's just really sure-handedly guiding us through this world that he's created. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I was actually surprised at how much I enjoyed this film. I wasn't going in expecting much. Now, I had read The Shining, the book. I never read Dr. Sleep, the book. But I think Flanagan does a good job kind of reining in some of King's goofier kind of stuff that he pulls, and makes it all somehow hold together and be believable. And he doesn't, and like you said, he's not lavish to Kubrick's film. He's not trying to ape it because that would just be pointless. He just brings in enough connective tissue so you can connect the two together, and it stands well enough on its own. And I was actually impressed whether there's some truly unsettling scenes in this where I don't know if it's scary per se, but there are things in it that just kind of make your skin crawl and just kind of like freak you out. Kudos to all around. I really enjoyed the characters. I loved Rebecca Ferguson. She was great in this. I had a good time watching her. Abra is pretty good as well. She's not an annoying child actor by any means. So I was on board with this. I was not expecting to like this as much as I did.
What did you think about the recasting of previous actors, like Dick Halloran and his mom, and instead of digitally recreating them like we've been seeing?
I much preferred this route. I think there's no need necessarily to be that lavish. They got people who looked enough like those people that you could tell who they were supposed to be. And even the one who played Danny's mom, and I'm blanking on the original actress's name, Shelley Duvall.
Shelley Duvall, thank you.
Okay. Well, I got the first name right. So Shelley Duvall, the actress who was playing Danny's mom in Dr. Sleep, she just kind of nails those weird voice inflections that Shelley Duvall did. That sounded, it was just kind of creepy to see, even though she didn't look exactly like her. So, I mean, I preferred this to getting like a Rogue One Carrie Fisher or Grand Moff Tarkin wax figure spouting dialogue.
So, you know who played the new Lloyd when we're back at the Overlook Hotel?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's Henry Thomas.
I know. I didn't realize that at first when I first saw it. I just thought it was some Nicholson impersonator.
Yeah, no, I was like, whoa, wow. It's a kid from E.T.
Mm-hmm.
Dear Lord. So, okay. Danny. I tried to find that for a clip too, but I couldn't find it. Her screaming that all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I thought this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Out of the Stephen King adaptations that have been done, I think this is one of the better ones.
Yeah.
Maybe like a check right below Shawshank. Can you count? I guess you can count Kubrick's version as an adaptation, right? He's adapting the source material.
I mean, I guess very loosely, very, very loosely.
But it's got, and I think it's interesting too. It doesn't have, like you said, it doesn't have a lot of scares in it, right? But it's just a general feeling of uneasiness and some truly kind of skin crawly, horrific moments. Listen, if you like seeing kids killed, this is your movie.
This is the one for you. Although, would be, I don't think it's going out on a limb necessarily saying that this is, of the 3 King adaptions we've got this year, this is the best one.
Yeah, what else have we got this year?
It Part 2 and Pet Sematary.
Oh, yeah, hands down.
Yeah.
Oh, hands down it is. Wow, I didn't realize he had 3 films come out this year.
Yep.
Didn't even think about that. So, Dr. Sleep, Matt, I'm giving it a B+.
Hey, you know what? Me too. We are on point for film grades today.
Well, that's good. Finally. Some variety. Mike Flanagan does it again. I wonder what's up next for Mike. You know, this thing is not doing well. I think
I'm
he's working
shocked.
on a sequel to The Haunting of Hill House. What do you ascribe that to?
I think it's a couple things. First, I think just generally because it's not a comic book film, that it's not making a ton of money. And I think two, just because there's probably a contingent of people who refuse to go see it just because they think The Shining was so good, or they hated The Shining so much and they don't want anything to do with it. So
I don't know if it's been advertised well. I don't think the promotion on this has been exceptionally well. It's exceptionally good, and I hate the title.
Yeah.
The title is it doesn't really grab you. Now, The Shining 2 doesn't really work either.
Shining again.
But Dr. Sleep just doesn't really...
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't think they've done a good job promoting it. So this, coupled with the poor performance of Terminator Dark Fate, you can't wait this long to do good adaptations? Is it the audience
maybe
gone?
You just can't go that long without a sequel, I guess. Maybe that's what it is, which doesn't bode well for our Avatar films, which are still churning ahead. Things are coming out. Come hell or high water.
All 36 of them?
Yeah.
So, yeah. No. We both really enjoyed Dr. Sleep. It's currently playing everywhere. Please go see it and support this film, along with Terminator Dark Fate, too. But Dr. Sleep deserves your attention. Check it out, playing in theaters now. If you've seen it, shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Matt, let's go ahead and spend a few minutes talking about our 5 favorite nightmare sequences in a movie.
This is not a dream. Not a dream. We are using your brain's electrical system as a receiver. We are unable to transmit through conscious neural interference. You are receiving this broadcast as a dream. We are transmitting from the year 1999. You are receiving this broadcast in order to alter the events you are seeing. Our technology has now developed a transmitter strong enough to reach your conscious state of awareness. But this is not a dream. You are seeing what is actually occurring for the purpose of causality violation. This broadcast will be received by the perceptual centers as a dream. But this is not a dream.
That was not a dream. That is, of course, is it the opening? I think it is the opening of John Carpenter's mostly fantastic Prince of Darkness. That is the warning of the upcoming apocalypse and the return of Satan on the earth. Have you seen Prince of Darkness? You must have some.
Not in a long time. I should probably watch it again.
Yeah, I've always really enjoyed it. It's part of Carpenter's Apocalypse trilogy, being that, The Thing, and then In the Mouth of Madness. But I've always enjoyed Prince of Darkness. It's a little cheesy at times. I mean, it's 80s Carpenter, but that's why it's awesome.
Right.
It's 80s Carpenter.
Well, I think of those 3, I mean, obviously, In the Mouth of Madness is super cheesy, so I think they had a declining quality as they went.
Unfortunately. So, and of course, I couldn't include that in my top 5 because, as he says,
not a dream.
Mm-hmm. So, but I wanted to give it some loving. All right, Matt. You go ahead first this time, so you get to give me the first number 1. What is your 5th favorite nightmare sequence in a movie?
All right, my 5th favorite is the birth of the maggot from Gina Davis's nether regions from David Cronenberg's version of The Fly from 1986. Essentially, Gina Davis is hooking up with Brundle, Jeff Goldblum, and she finds out he's turning into a fly. So then she starts having some nightmares about giving birth to a hideous fly baby, which was an unsettling, very creepy image when I first saw it as a young lad, watching something I should not be watching.
Fair enough. My number 5 then is the hand attack through the cinder block wall in Day of the Dead.
Right.
A Romero classic. The young woman there, I'm blanking on her name now, unfortunately. but they're living in a bunker underground. The Earth has basically just been taken over by zombies, and they're doing experiments to figure out what to do about possibly even maybe controlling the zombies or domesticating them, for lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And there's a sequence where she is just exhausted and lying against the wall, and then all of a sudden all the hands shoot out of the wall, and then she wakes up. And it is exceptionally well done. It's very effective, and it's one of my favorites.
That's a good one. All right, so my number 4 is from Hellraiser, the original Hellraiser. It's kind of like a weird student film kind of dream sequence where there's kind of this abstract images and feathers and bleeding corpses on under sheets and stuff like that. But the reason that this sticks out for me is there's throughout the whole thing, and there's this, over this kind of pulse of this hum as they go through, is this baby crying, and it is a baby that sounds like it's in incredible distress. And when you marry that with the fact that these things are supposed to be these torturers from hell kind of thing, it really conjures up a really uncomfortable image of why that baby is crying. And it's actually really effective, and it really creeped me out. It still creeps me out when I listen to it this day, just with the implication of what Clive Barker's trying to say there.
Woof. I hadn't really thought about it that way. Maybe it's because I don't have kids. But I just rewatched Hellraiser 2 around Halloween. But that is a good one. That is. Ugh. My number 4 then, Matt, is. So here's the thing. Christine, she's working at a bank, and she's trying to get a promotion, right? She wants to make more money. And there's an elderly woman who's having issues with her mortgage. She's a little behind. She's asking for an extension. And she says no. And this older woman curses her. And there is at one point a dream then in Sam Raimi's fantastic Drag Me to Hell, where the woman is on top of her and then vomits up all of these insects and bugs into her own mouth, all over her face. It is disturbing and terrifying and gross. So the Bugapalooza, as I like to call it, from Drag Me to Hell is my number 4.
And I haven't seen Drag Me to Hell in forever. I should catch up with that. I should watch it again.
Yeah.
All right. So these next 3 are ones that I thought of immediately when we suggested this. So buckle up. All right. So number 3 is the hospital scene from Jacob's Ladder, where Tim Robbins, he is picked up by an ambulance, and it gets weirder and weirder. He starts begging for an explanation of what's going on. He gets dragged into this kind of dungeony, hellish hospital, and as he's just getting ready to be operated on, the doctor has no eyes, and when I say no eyes, I mean he literally has like skin over his eyes, and it is creepy as hell, because you don't know what the hell's going on. Is this real? Is it not? Is it a dream? It's a pretty effective and creepy image.
I have never seen Jacob's Ladder.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. You should check it out. It's an interesting cult, weird nightmare film.
Get off my back. All right, number 3 for me is James Cameron's Aliens. Ripley is safely back on Earth, or in a space station. I'm blanking now. She's on Earth, right? Either way.
Yeah, she's on a space station above Earth.
Okay. And they found her floating through space, and she's recovering in her little hospital bay room. And she finally, though, she made it, Matt. She escaped from the aliens. Except maybe not, right? So that she starts to feel the cat hisses, Jonesy hisses at her, and all of a sudden one of the chest bursters starts to shoot up, her skin distorts as the head starts to come up through her skin, and then we wake up. But man, I think the head fake on that from Cameron is so well done.
Yeah.
So it's my number 3.
Yeah, I was like, no, they're not going to kill her in the first 5 minutes, are they? I saw that when I was a kid. Okay, my number 2 is Nazi Werewolves of the SS from An American Werewolf in London. David has a dream where he's back home. He's enjoying time with his family in the 80s. All seems very wholesome. When a bunch of anthropomorphized werewolves, I guess, dressed as Nazis, come in, blazing with their submachine guns, murder his whole family, including his young children siblings, before cutting his throat. And then it switches to him waking up. And then they pop out of his hospital room as well. It's a lasting image, and just a very creepy, weird amalgam of what is going on with his mental state as this movie progresses.
I have not seen that film, and that's one I need to catch up with. I haven't seen it since I was a kid. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, it holds up, man. It's still a good film, even though it is John Landis.
Yeah, guy's an ass. All right, my number 2 then has already been mentioned, unfortunately, and that is the maggot birth from The Fly. Cronenberg loves to mess with you, especially with that bodily horror, and I cannot imagine something more disturbing than giving birth to that thing, that little maggot fly baby thing. I remember watching that when I was a kid too, and that thing it freaked me out. It kept me up that night. I remember just like, oh my, I couldn't get the image out of my head. And that's what Cronenberg does best. So that's my number 2.
Man, when he breaks that guy's wrist, arm wrestling, that grossed me out as well. That is something that stuck with me for a long time, because that was not something I was expecting. Yeah. Anyway, okay, so my number 1, it's a bit of a layup, and I really struggled with where I should put this on here, but you know what? It's still so effective. It's when Nancy falls asleep in class at A Nightmare on Elm Street, and the thing that sells it so much for me is the kid reading Hamlet soliloquy about sleeping in dreams and nightmares, just while it's real, is being really bored and not doing a very good job. And then as she shifts to the sleep world, his voice kind of just changes to this low, sinister thing. And it's just the way he's describing it, that narration in the background, it just hits me every time. It's so good the way they do that. And she doesn't even notice, where you know that you're in a dream, but she doesn't. And it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's basically my number 6, though that is a good pick. My number 1 then is Father Karras's nightmare from The Exorcist, when he sees his mother and he can't get to her. Yeah, and the way that Friedkin shoots that thing in the streets of New York and the subway, and then the ambient sound as he's trying to get to her, crossing the streets, screaming, and she comes up the subways and then she goes right back down. It's just so eerie, and I'm actually getting like goosebumps right now just thinking about it. It's just the way he shoots that thing. It's just so it's unsettling to its core, and it always stuck with me. And it's not even the scariest part of that film, but it's just, as I said, it's unsettling, and that's why it's so effective. So, do you have any honorable mentions?
Well, a lot of the honorable mentions have been mentioned on your list, so we have a pretty good diverse list. I guess the only thing I'll put out there is Judgment Day from T2. Yeah. I just thought that was so cool when the mushroom clouds go off and then you see the shockwave blowing through Los Angeles. That is just such a cool effect, just to kind of see it lay waste the city in piece by piece. I don't think I'd ever seen anything quite like that before on film.
Yeah, no, that was on my honorable mentions as well. The conclusion to the original Friday the 13th, when Jason pops out of the lake, is
for no reason.
Yeah. That's another good one. Rachel in the original Pet Cemetery, her sister. That one really freaked me out. And then I don't know if this counts. Maybe just a hallucination. I'm not sure. But the dead baby crawling across the ceiling in Trainspotting.
Yeah, while he's having his withdrawals or whatever.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure about that one.
If was a dream or not, or if it's just his result of his withdrawals. I don't know. That's why it's in an honorable mention. It may have been actually on my list if I could nailed down that it was a dream. I don't know. So there you go. That's the list, folks. Print and cut. What's on your list? Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Next week, Matt, it's going to be Ford versus Ferrari. I tried to line up a guest. He, unfortunately, is likely not going to be able to make it, so you're going to be stuck with us again.
Sorry, guys.
Sigh.
I'm actually strangely looking forward to this film. I'm curious to see if it's any good.
It's reviewing quite well. Also, Waves is getting a wider release, I believe, which I do definitely want to catch up with that at some point. You can look into that, directed and written by Trey Edward Schultz. It's getting a lot of really good positive buzz. So, and we're in that time. All this great stuff's has been starting to come out now. So
yeah.
That'll be it, though. So in the meantime, check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Do a search for The First Run. Scroll. Eventually you will find us. Please go over to Apple Podcasts and give us a review. It'll help other people find the show. Matt, why don't we go ahead and take an extended break, and we will see you all soon.
See? It's okay. We saw it on the television.